The mining ship shook as it prepared to dock with the Confederation patrol vessel. Inside the small control room, Tay wiped sweat from his forehead and took a deep breath. He knew he had done nothing wrong. The mining permits were valid. The asteroid belt was in free space. Yet here they were, lights flashing and sirens blaring. This is Confederation Patrol Ship 447. Prepare to be boarded for inspection. Tay looked at the papers spread across his desk one more time. Everything was in order. He had checked 3 times. The Korean man stood up straight, his broad shoulders tense, but his face calm. 6 years working the outer rim had taught him to stay cool in tough spots. The airlock hissed open. 3 tall bug-like aliens entered. They were Varens, known across the galaxy as tough law enforcers. Their hard exoskeletons clicked as they walked. Their compound eyes scanned the room quickly. "You are the ship captain?" the lead Varen asked, mandibles clicking. "Yes, I am Tay, mining engineer from Earth. Here are my papers and mining permits." Tay held out the documents. His voice was steady. The Varen ignored the papers. "You are in violation of Section 42 of the Galactic Mining Code. Your operation crosses into protected space." Tay frowned. "That's not possible. We checked the maps. This area is free for mining. New borders were set last month." The Varen's voice had no emotion. "You are under arrest." There was no notice. The Varen cut him off. "Resistance will make your sentence worse, human." Tay knew arguing was pointless. He had seen this before. Some officials looked for any excuse to arrest human miners. Humans were still new to the galactic community. Many aliens didn't trust them. "I understand," Tay said, holding his wrists out. "I will cooperate." The Varen seemed almost disappointed by his calm response. They placed metal cuffs around his wrists. The cuffs were too tight, cutting into his skin. Tay said nothing. He wouldn't give them the satisfaction. "A Deathworlder who knows his place," one Varen whispered to another. "Rare." Tay had heard that term before, Deathworlder. It was what many aliens called humans. Earth, with its high gravity, extreme weather, and dangerous animals, was considered a death world by galactic standards. Most alien species evolved on calm, peaceful planets. They saw humans as strange creatures who survived against all odds on a planet that tried to kill them. The patrol ship was cold and sterile. Tay was placed in a small holding cell with 5 other prisoners. None were human. They stared at him with fear and curiosity. A small green alien with 4 arms moved to the far corner when Tay sat down. "Never been this close to a human before," whispered a blob-like creature to its neighbor. "Heard they can break bones with their bare hands. Heard they drink poison." "For fun," the neighbor replied. "Call it alcohol." Tay closed his eyes, pretending not to hear. The trip to the prison station would take at least 2 days. He needed to save his energy. Helios Station appeared through the ship's window like a metal spider in space. It was the largest prison in this sector, a massive structure with 8 long arms extending from a central hub. Each arm held thousands of prisoners from across the galaxy. The processing center was busy and loud. Aliens of all shapes and sizes were being scanned, questioned, and assigned to cells. Tay stood in line, watching everything carefully. He was the only human in sight. "Name and planet of origin," said a bored-looking officer with purple skin. "Tay. Earth." The officer's eyes widened slightly. "Earth? The death world?" There was new interest in his voice. "What are your physical capabilities?" Tay knew this game. Some prison officials like to classify humans as dangerous, putting them in higher security areas. "Average for a human," Tay said simply. "I'm a mining engineer, not a soldier." The officer looked disappointed. He stamped a form and handed Tay a plastic card. "Block 7, Cell 219. Standard gravity, standard atmosphere. Any special needs?" "No." "Remove all personal items. You get 1 prison uniform, 1 blanket, 1 hygiene kit." Tay emptied his pockets. A small metal disc caught the officer's attention. "What is this?" He held up the disc. "A lucky charm. My father gave it to me. It was a simple Korean coin, nothing special to anyone but Tay." "Contraband," Could be used as a weapon. The officer dropped it into a box of confiscated items. Tay felt a flash of anger, but kept his face blank. The coin was the only thing he had, from home. Fighting would only make things worse. A guard led Tay down long corridors to Block 7. The cells here had clear fronts so guards could see inside. Most held 2 or 3 prisoners. Aliens of many species watched as Tay walked by. Some whispered. Some made threatening gestures. "Here's your new home, Deathworlder," the guard said, stopping at cell 219. The door slid open. 2 cellmates, both Kuril. Try not to cause trouble. The cell was small and plain. 2 reptile-like aliens sat on lower bunks. They had scales that shifted color slightly as they moved. Their yellow eyes fixed on Tay as he entered. A human? One stood up, scales turning a darker green. "They put a human with us?" "Looks like it," the other said. "Heard they're dangerous." "I'm Tay," the human said calmly. "I'm not looking for trouble." The first Kuril hissed softly. "I am Nak. This is Lin. This cell belongs to Kuril. Humans not welcome." Tay nodded and said nothing. He climbed to the empty top bunk and sat cross-legged, back straight, eyes forward. He had learned long ago that sometimes silence was the best response. The first week passed slowly. Tay kept to himself, watching and learning the prison routines. Wake-up call, breakfast, work assignments, exercise period, dinner, lights out, repeat. He was assigned to the recycling plant, sorting materials that came in from across the station. The work was simple but tiring. Most prisoners avoided him, leaving an empty space around him wherever he went. On the 8th day, everything changed. Tay was sitting alone at lunch when a thin, nervous alien approached his table. He had pale, blue skin and large, intelligent eyes. "May I sit?" the alien asked. His voice was high and musical. Tay nodded. The alien sat down quickly, as if afraid to stand in the open too long. "I am Jin," he said. "Solari species. Data crimes." He spoke in short, quick sentences. "You are the human. Everyone talks about you. I'm Tay. You are calm, different from what they say about humans." Jin's large eyes blinked rapidly. "I have information, useful information, about prison, about guards, about who really runs this place." Tay raised an eyebrow. "Why tell me?" Jin leaned closer. "Need protection. Big lizards take my food, take my medicine, hurt me." Before Tay could answer, a shadow fell across the table. A massive Kuril stood there, almost twice as tall as Jin. His scales were deep red with black patterns. Behind him stood 6 more Kuril, all looking at Tay with cold yellow eyes. "This is not your table, Deathworlder," the big Kuril said. His voice was deep and rough. "You sit where I say you sit." The cafeteria went quiet. All eyes turned to watch. Jin trembled beside Tay. "That's Dak," he whispered. "Leader of Kuril gang. Very dangerous." Tay looked up at Dak calmly. The human's heart beat steady and slow. He had faced worse dangers in space. "There are no assigned tables," Tay said simply. Dak's scales rippled with anger. "Your kind does not belong in civilized space. Earth scum should stay on their death world." Tay said nothing. His silence seemed to anger Dak more. "You will learn your place here." Dak slammed a clawed hand down on Tay's food tray, sending it flying. Food splattered across the floor. Still, Tay did not move, did not flinch. He simply looked at Dak with calm, dark eyes. Dak leaned down until his face was inches from Tay's. His breath smelled like rotting meat. "You will regret coming to this prison, human," he hissed. "I will make sure of it." Then Dak turned and walked away, his followers behind him. The cafeteria slowly returned to its normal noise level. Jin stared at Tay with wide eyes. "You did not show fear. No one stands up to Dak." Tay shrugged. "I didn't stand up, I just didn't back down." Jin shook his head in wonder. "Same thing here. Very brave. Very foolish." He looked around nervously. Dak will come for you now. It is only a matter of time. Tay nodded slowly. He had expected this from the moment he arrived. In any prison, there were predators and prey, and for some reason this Dak had decided Tay would be his prey. But there was something Dak didn't understand. On Earth, humans were both predator and prey. They had evolved to survive. Let him come, Tay said quietly. I'll be ready. 3 days had passed since the cafeteria incident. Tay sat on his bunk watching his cellmates from the corner of his eye. Nock and Lin whispered to each other, shooting nervous glances at him. Word had spread quickly about his encounter with Dak. Now everyone was waiting to see what would happen next. The cell door slid open. A guard stood there tapping a shock baton against her leg. Work detail, she announced. Maintenance level, Section 4. Tay climbed down from his bunk. This was new. His usual assignment was in recycling. Just you, human, the guard said when Nock and Lin started to get up. Special assignment, Nock hissed softly. Dak's territory, he whispered to Tay. Be careful. Tay nodded. So that was it. Dak had friends among the guards. This was a setup. The guard led Tay down several levels, through narrow corridors that grew dimmer as they descended. The maintenance level was hot and damp. Pipes ran along the ceiling, dripping condensation. The air smelled of chemicals and mold. End of the hall, the guard said, pointing. Clean the waste filters, tools are there. She turned and left without another word. Tay walked slowly down the corridor, all senses alert. The only sounds were the hum of machinery and the drip of water. He reached a small room filled with large filtration tanks. A cart with cleaning tools stood nearby. He picked up a scraper and began working on the first tank. The waste had built up into a hard crust that took effort to remove. As he worked, Tay kept his ears open and his back to the wall. After 20 minutes, he heard footsteps. 3 Kuril entered the room. They were smaller than Dak, but moved with the same aggressive confidence. Their scales were bright orange, a warning color. Look what we found, said the first one. A lonely human. Dak wants to talk to you, said another. Private conversation. Tay set down his tool slowly. I'm working. We can talk later. The Kuril laughed, a harsh sound like rocks being crushed. Not a request, Deathworlder. Tay studied them carefully. 3 opponents. Narrow space. 1 exit blocked. Not good odds. Where is Dak? He asked, playing for time. Waiting. Come now, or we drag you. Tay nodded as if agreeing. Then, fast as lightning, he grabbed the cleaning cart and shoved it hard at the Kuril. They jumped back, surprised by the sudden move. In that moment, Tay darted past them into the corridor. He ran, not looking back. Behind him, angry shouts echoed off the metal walls. Tay knew the prison layout from careful observation during his short time there. 2 lefts, then a right would take him to a more populated area. He rounded the first corner and crashed into something solid. Tay fell back, momentarily stunned. Looking up, he saw Dak towering over him, yellow eyes gleaming. Running? Dak asked, showing sharp teeth in what might have been a smile. That's not very brave for a Deathworlder. 4 more Kuril stood behind Dak. The 3 from the filter room caught up, breathing hard. Tay was surrounded. He got to his feet slowly, keeping his stance relaxed but balanced. 7 against 1, he said. Not very brave for the mighty Kuril. Dak's scales darkened with anger. You insult my honor? Just stating facts. The big Kuril stepped closer. On my world, humans would be prey animals. Small, soft creatures we hunt for sport. On my world, Tay replied evenly. We evolved to survive anything. Even predators like you. Dak moved with surprising speed. His clawed hand shot out, aiming for Tay's throat, but Tay was ready. He stepped inside the blow, redirecting Dak's arm with a quick move. The human's palm struck the Kuril's chest. Not hard enough to cause serious damage, but enough to push him back a step. Dak looked shocked. No one had ever avoided his attack before. You dare touch me? He hissed. You attacked first, Tay said. I defended myself. For a long moment, no one moved. The air felt heavy with tension. Then a loud alarm sounded throughout the station. Red lights flashed in the corridor. "Shift change," one of the Kuril said. "Guards will be making rounds." Dak never took his eyes off Tai. "This isn't over, human. Not by a long way." He backed up, motioning for his followers to do the same. "We will finish this talk soon." Tai watched them leave, keeping his face calm despite the rapid beating of his heart. He had been lucky. Next time Dak would be more prepared. "You're still alive," Jin exclaimed when Tai sat next to him at dinner. "Everyone said Dak's gang took you to maintenance level." "They tried something," Tai admitted. "It didn't work out for them." Jin's large eyes grew even wider. "You escaped Dak? Twice?" He lowered his voice. "Now he will never stop. His pride is hurt." Tai nodded. He had figured as much. "Tell me about him," he said. "What do you know?" Jin glanced around nervously, then leaned closer. "Dak is from Kuril Prime, high-caste warrior family. Was a ship commander before arrest. Very proud. Very dangerous." He paused. "Controls many things here. Has guards in his pay. Gets special food, medicine, even weapons." "What was he arrested for?" "Piracy. Attacked Confederation ships. Killed many people." Jin shivered. "Should have been executed, but his family has influence." Tai considered this information. Dak was used to power and respect. Having a human defy him would be intolerable. "He will come for you again," Jin said. "Maybe tonight. Your cell is not safe." "I know." Tai had been thinking about this problem. "I need allies." Jin straightened up. "I will help. I know many things about this prison." Tai smiled for the first time since his arrest. "Thanks, Jin." "Over there," Jin said, nodding towards a table in the corner. "The blue female. She is Hyun, a Photurian. Very smart, good with machines. And the tall gray one? Rim, former soldier. Both hate Dak." Tai looked at the aliens Jin had pointed out. "Why would they help me?" "Because you stood up to Dak. No one does that." Jin paused. "Also, Deathworlders have reputation. Strong, dangerous, good allies in prison." Before Tai could respond, the cafeteria doors slid open. A female guard walked in, her uniform crisp and her posture perfect. The noise level dropped immediately. "That's Captain Sook," Jin whispered. "Head of security. Very strict, very fair." Captain Sook surveyed the room with cold eyes. She was from the Kree species, humanoid in shape, but with metallic silver skin and no visible hair. When her gaze fell on Tai, she paused. "The human," she said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Report to my office after meal." Tai nodded. This was unexpected. Jin looked worried. "Why does she want you?" "I'll find out soon enough." Captain Sook's office was clean and orderly. No personal items, no decorations. Just a desk, 2 chairs, and a wall of monitors showing different areas of the prison. "Sit," she commanded. Tai sat across from her, hands folded in his lap. 3 days here and already you cause problems," she said. Her voice was cold and precise. "Explain." "I haven't caused any problems," Tai replied. "I've defended myself when necessary." Sook touched a screen on her desk. One of the monitors showed the maintenance level corridor. Tai saw himself confronting Dak and his gang. The camera had captured everything. "Dak is a problem prisoner," Sook said. "But he controls the Kuril population. Nearly 40% of inmates here are Kuril. You understand my position?" Tai understood perfectly. Sook was willing to let Dak run things as long as he kept his people in line. "I don't want trouble," Tai said. "But I won't be a victim." Sook studied him with unblinking eyes. "Humans. Always. So difficult." She leaned forward. "I could move you to solitary confinement. For your protection." Tai knew that was no favor. Solitary meant isolation, limited exercise, no communication. Slow torture for a social species like humans. "I prefer to stay where I am," he said firmly. "Even if it means fighting Dak again? Perhaps dying?" Even then, Sook sat back, a flicker of respect crossing her face. Very well, but understand this, if you kill Dak or any prisoner, you will never leave this station. Ever. Tay nodded. The message was clear. Defend yourself if you must, but don't go too far. Dismissed, Sook said, turning to her monitors. As Tay walked back to his cell, he thought about his options. Dak wouldn't stop coming after him. The guards wouldn't interfere. He needed a plan. And he needed it soon. In his cell, he found something unexpected on his bunk. A small metal disc, his father's coin. Next to it was a note written in simple Galactic standard. Not all guards follow Dak. Some respect strength. Tay smiled as he picked up the coin. Things were more complicated than they seemed, and maybe, just maybe, he had more allies than he knew. 2 weeks had passed since Tay arrived at Helios Station. Life had fallen into a rhythm, but it was an uneasy one. Every day, the human felt Dak's yellow eyes watching him. Every night, he slept lightly, ready for trouble. The prison work bell rang, signaling the end of the morning shift. Tay put down his tools and stretched his back. He had been reassigned to the hydroponics bay, tending the plants that provided fresh air and some of the food for the station. He liked it here. The air smelled of earth and green things, reminding him of home. Tay, Jin's voice called from the doorway. The thin blue alien hurried over, looking excited. Big news. Tay wiped his hands on his prison uniform. What is it? Jin glanced around to make sure no one was listening. Supply ship coming tomorrow, special delivery. Supply ships come every week, Tay said. What's special about this one? Jin's large eyes blinked rapidly. This one brings items, not official. Items for Dak and others who pay. Smuggled goods. Tay understood now. How do you know this? I hear things. See things. Jin tapped his head. Solari have good ears, good memory. Guards talk near me, think I don't understand. Tay considered this information. Contraband entering. The prison could mean many things, none of them good for him. What kind of items? He asked. Drugs, weapons, maybe both. Jin shivered. Bad things will happen soon. Tay nodded slowly. If Dak got his hands on weapons, the balance of power would shift even more in his favor. There's more, Jin whispered. Dak takes medicine from weak prisoners, sells it to others or trades for favors. Many suffer. The guards allow this? Some yes, some no. Most look away. Jin's voice dropped even lower. One prisoner very sick now, young Futurian named Hyun, needs medicine for her light organs. Without it, her body shuts down. Tay remembered the blue female Jin had pointed, out in the cafeteria. Can the medical bay help her? They say nothing wrong. Say she faking. Jin shook his head sadly. Not faking. Really sick. Tay felt anger rising in him. He had seen this kind of injustice before, even on Earth. The strong preying on the weak, those with power ignoring suffering. It wasn't right. Where is she now? He asked. The female quarters were on the opposite side of the prison block from the male ones. Normally, prisoners couldn't cross between them, but the medical bay was neutral ground. Jin led Tay there during the afternoon free period. Hyun lay on a narrow bed, her blue skin dull and patchy. Photurians usually glowed with soft light, but hers was flickering weakly. Her breathing came in short, painful gasps. They just leave her here? Tay asked, shocked. Doctor came once, said nothing wrong. Jin stood nervously by the door. Guards could come any minute. Tay approached the bed. Hyun's eyes opened. They were large and silver with no pupils. She looked at him with fear. I'm Tay, he said gently. I won't hurt you. Human, she whispered. Her voice sounded like wind chimes. Why are you here? Jin told me you're sick, that Dak took your medicine. Hyun's light dimmed even further. My fault. Should have hidden it better. No, Tay said firmly. It's not your fault. It's his. He turned to Jin. What medicine does she need? Blue pills. Special light nutrients. Without them, Futurians can't process energy right. Tay made a quick decision. I get extra food rations because of my high metabolism needs. Earth gravity is stronger, so they think I need more food. He smiled slightly. I don't. I'll trade my extra rations for her medicine. Jin looked alarmed. Trade with who? Daki controls all trades. Then I'll talk to Dak. No, both Jin and Hyun said together. He'll see it as weakness, Jin explained. Use it against you. I don't care. Tae's mind was made up. I won't watch someone suffer if I can help. Hyun's silver eyes filled with tears that glowed like tiny stars. Why would you help me? You don't know me. Tae thought about it. Why was he doing this? Maybe because in this cold, harsh place, small acts of kindness mattered more than ever. On Earth, he said slowly, we have a saying. Your true character is what you do when no one is watching. I'm just doing what feels right. That evening in the cafeteria, Tae sat at his usual table with Jin. His tray had extra food, protein cubes and vitamin paste that humans supposedly needed. He ate half and saved half. May I join you? Tae looked up to see a tall, gray-skinned alien standing there. This was Rim, the former soldier Jin had mentioned. Sure, Tae said. Rim sat down, moving with the careful precision of a trained fighter. You visited the Futurian today. News traveled fast in prison. Yes. Why? She needs help. Rim's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. Interesting. Most prisoners only help others for gain. I'm not most prisoners. Rim studied him. No, you are not. You are a Deathworlder. He leaned forward. I fought alongside a human once. Earth military exchange program. She could run for hours without rest. Could lift twice her weight. Could see in near darkness. Tae said nothing. These were exaggerations, but many aliens believed such things about humans. Dak comes, Jin whispered suddenly. Tae felt the change in the room before he saw Dak. The noise level dropped. Prisoners moved aside, creating a path. The big Kuril walked towards their table, scales shifting to bright red. 6 followers came with him, spreading out in a half circle. Human, Daki said, voice dripping with contempt. I hear you want something from me. Word had gotten out already. Tae remained seated, looking up calmly. I want to make a trade. Dak laughed, a harsh sound. You have nothing I want. Extra food rations. For 2 weeks. In exchange for the Futurians' medicine. The cafeteria had gone completely silent. Everyone was watching. Even the guards seemed interested in what would happen. Dak's yellow eyes narrowed. You care about the light skin? He flicked his tongue, tasting the air. Strange. Humans are supposed to be selfish creatures. Do we have a deal? Tae asked, ignoring the insult. No deal, Dak said flatly. The Futurian's weakness is not my concern. Her medicine is mine now. Tae stood up slowly. He wasn't as tall as Dak, but his stance was solid, confident. Her medicine does nothing for you. It only works for Futurians. True, Dak admitted with a cruel smile. But watching her suffer is entertaining. Something cold settled in Tae's stomach. This wasn't just about power or control. Dak enjoyed causing pain. That ends now, Tae said quietly. The cafeteria grew even more still. Jin made a small, frightened sound. Rim tensed beside him, ready for action. Dak stepped closer, towering over Tae. You dare give me orders? In my prison? It's not your prison, Tae replied. And yes, I dare. Dak's scales rippled with rage. His hand shot out, grabbing Tae's throat. Sharp claws pressed against soft human skin. I could kill you right now, Dak hissed. Tae didn't struggle. His dark eyes locked with Dak's yellow ones. You could try. For a long moment they stood frozen, in that position. Then slowly, Tae raised his own hand. Not to fight, but to hold up his untouched food ration. 2 weeks of extra food, he said, voice calm despite the pressure on his throat. Or we can do this the hard way. Dak's eyes flicked to the guards who were now moving closer, shock batons ready. He released Tay with a snarl. You think you've won, human? He leaned in, whispering so only Tay could hear. Tomorrow's shipment. Special items. After that, we finish this. He snapped his fingers, and one of his followers tossed a small bottle onto the table, the Futurian's medicine. Consider this a gift, Dak said loudly. Your last one. As Dak and his gang walked away, the room erupted in whispers. Jin stared at Tay in amazement. You stood up to him again, and won. Tay picked up the medicine, ignoring the red marks on his neck. I didn't win anything, just bought some time. Rim nodded in agreement. Dak will not forget this humiliation. He was forced to back down in front of everyone. He mentioned tomorrow's shipment, Tay said. Special items, weapons, Rim confirmed. I've heard the same rumors, Tay thought quickly. Then we need to be ready. Jin, take this medicine to Hyun. Rim, tell me everything you know about tomorrow's delivery. As they talked, Tay noticed Captain Sook watching from across the room. Her face showed no emotion, but she hadn't interfered when Dak grabbed him. The message was clear. Solve your own problems. That night, lying on his bunk, Tay turned his father's coin over and over in his fingers. Tomorrow would bring danger, but also opportunity. For the first time since his arrest, he had something that felt like purpose. And somewhere deep inside, in a place he rarely acknowledged, there was a flicker of something else. Not fear, not anger, anticipation. Morning came with flashing lights and a loud announcement. Supply ship docking. All prisoners remain in cells. Tay sat on his bunk, watching his cellmates. Nak and Lin were nervous, avoiding his eyes. They had heard about his confrontation with Doc. Now they feared being on the wrong side. It happens today, Nak said, finally breaking the silence. Dak has planned for you. Tay nodded. I know. You should have stayed quiet, Lin added. No one challenges Dak. Someone should, Tay replied. The cell door slid open. A guard Tay hadn't seen before stood there, looking bored. Human. Work detail. Tay got up, his face calm despite the quick beating of his heart. This was it. The guard led him not to his usual work area, but down to the loading bay where supply ships docked. Several other prisoners were already there, moving crates and boxes. All were Dak's followers. Move those crates to storage area B, the guard ordered, pointing to a stack of boxes marked kitchen supplies. Then he walked away, deliberately turning his back. Tay looked around, assessing the situation. 10 Kuril working in teams of 2, 3 guards, all suspiciously uninterested in what was happening. And at the far end of the bay, Dak himself, watching with those cold yellow eyes. Tay picked up a crate. It was lighter than it should be for its size. He carried it toward storage area B, his mind racing. He needed a plan. He needed allies. He needed... Psst, Tay! Jin's thin blue face appeared from behind a large container. The Solari looked terrified but determined. What are you doing here? Tay whispered, setting down his crate. Helping you. Rim sent message to friends. They come soon. Jin peered around nervously. Dak got weapons in those boxes, plans to use them during exercise period. Many guards look away. Tay nodded. It made sense. The exercise yard would be crowded, chaotic. Easy to make a killing look like an accident. How many with Dak? He asked. 15, maybe 20. Not all Kuril. Some other species too. Jin's large eyes blinked. Rapidly. What will you do? Tay thought quickly. Running wasn't an option. Hiding wouldn't work for long. Fighting 20 armed prisoners seemed impossible, even for a human. I need to get to those weapons before Dak distributes them, Tay decided. Or, at least some of them. Jin looked doubtful. How? Dak watches everything. Tay smiled slightly. Not everything. You said you're good with machines, right? Yes, very good. The station has emergency protocols, fire alarms, lockdowns? Jin's eyes widened as he understood. Yes. Control panel and guard station, but how? I'll create a distraction. You get to that panel. Tay picked up his crate again. Tell Rim to be ready. 20 minutes later, all the crates had been moved to storage area B. The Kirill started opening them, pulling out what looked like kitchen tools but were clearly disguised weapons. Shock knives, compressed gas bombs, even a crude plasma cutter. Dak walked over to Tay, who stood alone near the door. Soon, human, the big Kirill said softly. Soon you learn what happens to those who challenge me. Tay met his gaze steadily. Is this how the mighty Kirill fight? With smuggled weapons against an unarmed opponent? Dak's scales darkened with anger. You dare question my honor? I'm just wondering what your warrior ancestors would think, Tay said calmly. 20 armed Kirill against one human. Doesn't seem very brave. Dak's clawed hand shot out, grabbing Tay's collar. I could kill you right now. You could, Tay agreed. But then everyone would know you feared facing me fairly. It was a calculated risk. Tay knew from Jin that Kirill culture valued honor and fair combat. Dak might be corrupt, but he still carried those cultural values, Dak snarled, showing sharp teeth. Very well. In the exercise yard. You and me. No weapons. His eyes gleamed. After I defeat you fairly, then my followers will finish you. Slowly. Tay nodded. I accept. Dak released him with a push. 1 hour, exercise period. He turned to his followers. Secure the weapons. Hide them where we discussed. As the Kirill began repacking the weapons, Tay slipped away. Jin was waiting in the corridor. Did it work? The Solari asked anxiously. Partly, Tay replied. Can you still get to that control panel? Jin nodded. Guard change in 10 minutes, small window of opportunity. Good. I need you to trigger a security alert in the exercise yard right after my fight with Dak starts. Jin's thin face showed confusion. But that will bring all guards. Exactly. The exercise yard was an open space in the center of the prison block. A transparent dome let in light from the nearby sun. The artificial gravity was set slightly lower than Earth standard, making movement easier for most species. Prisoners of all types gathered there, forming a loose circle. Word had spread quickly. The human was going to fight Dak. It was the biggest. Excitement in months. Tay stood at one end of the circle, going through a series of slow-stretching movements. Across from him, Dak paced back and forth, his scales shifting between red and black patterns. Captain Sook watched from an observation platform, her face expressionless. She had made no move to stop what was happening. Perhaps she was curious to see the outcome. Tay felt oddly calm. The lower gravity meant his muscles, developed under Earth's stronger pull, would be more effective here. His bones, denser than those of most aliens, gave him structural advantages. And his reflexes, honed by years of working in dangerous mining conditions, were faster than most people realized. Still, Dak was bigger, stronger, and had natural weapons. Claws and teeth that could tear through flesh easily. Rim approached, Tay, speaking quietly. My friends are in position. Jin has reached the control room. Good, Tay said. Remember the plan. When the alarms go off, move quickly. The crowd parted as Dak stepped forward into the circle. He had removed his upper garments, showing his muscled torso covered in scales. His followers cheered and stamped their feet. Ready to die, human? Dak called out. Tay stepped into the circle. Ready to fight, he corrected. For a moment, they faced each other in silence. Then Dak charged. He was fast, faster than Tay expected. But the human had been watching Dak for days, studying his movements. He sidestepped at the last moment, using Dak's momentum against him. The Kirill spun around, surprised but not thrown off balance. He slashed with his claws, missing Tay's face by inches. The crowd roared its approval. Again and again, Dak attacked. Again and again, Tay evaded, never striking back, just avoiding damage. The Kuril grew more frustrated with each failed attack, his movements becoming less controlled, more wild. "Fight back," he snarled. "Stop running." "As you wish," Tay replied. When Dak charged again, Tay didn't move aside. Instead, he stepped in, meeting the attack. He caught Dak's arm, using the Kuril's own force to throw him to the ground. It was a basic move, taught to every Earth child in self-defense classes. The crowd went silent in shock. No one had ever seen Dak thrown down before. The Kuril jumped, back to his feet, eyes burning with rage. "You will pay for that." He attacked again, this time more carefully. Tay blocked, countered, and landed a solid blow to Dak's midsection. The scales there were softer, and Dak grunted in pain. Now the crowd was murmuring in amazement. The human was holding his own against Dak, more than holding his own. He was winning. Suddenly, sirens blared throughout the station. Red lights flashed. A computerized voice announced, "Security alert in exercise yard. All guards report. Lockdown in effect." It was Jin, right on time. Dak looked confused. Then understanding dawned in his yellow eyes. "You planned this. You're not the only one who can make plans," Tay replied. With a roar of fury, Dak launched himself at Tay. This time there was no technique, just raw anger and strength. They crashed to the ground together, rolling across the hard floor. Dak's claws raked Tay's arm, drawing blood. The human felt a flash of pain but kept his focus. He brought his knee up sharply into Dak's body, then used the momentary advantage to flip their positions. Now Tay was on top, pinning the larger alien down. Around them, chaos erupted as guards flooded into the yard. Prisoners scattered, running for the exits. "It's over, Dak," Tay said, breathing hard. "The guards will find your weapons. Your smuggling operation is finished." Dak's scales had gone, completely black, a sign of pure rage. "I will kill you for this," he hissed. "If not today, then tomorrow, or the next day. I will never stop." Tay looked into those hate-filled yellow eyes and made a decision. "No," he said quietly. "You won't." With precise movements, he pressed on certain points of Dak's neck, points he had learned about from Jin, who knew Kuril anatomy. It wasn't enough to kill, just enough to render the big alien unconscious. As Dak went limp beneath him, Tay stood up. Guards surrounded him immediately, shock batons ready. "Stand down, prisoner," one shouted. Tay raised his hands. "I surrender," he said, calmly. "Check storage area B, you'll find illegal weapons." Captain Sook pushed through the guards, her silver face showing emotion for the first time. Surprise. "You did this?" she asked, looking from Tay to the unconscious Dak. "I stopped a smuggling operation and prevented violence," Tay replied. "Isn't that what you wanted?" For a long moment, Sook stared at him. Then, surprisingly, she smiled slightly. "Take the human to medical," she ordered the guards. "Then bring him to my office," she glanced at Dak, "and put this one in solitary, maximum security." As the guards led him away, Tay caught glimpses of other prisoners watching him with new eyes. No longer with fear or curiosity, but with respect. He had not just survived in this harsh place, he had changed it. The medical bay was quiet except for the soft beeping of machines. Ty sat on a bed while a medical drone cleaned the cuts on his arm. The wounds weren't deep, but krill claws carried bacteria that could be dangerous to other species. "You are fortunate," said the medical officer, a tall, thin alien with 4 arms. "Krill can sever major blood vessels with one swipe." Tay nodded. He had been careful during the fight, always keeping his vital areas protected. Still, he had taken some damage. The door slid open, and Jin rushed in, followed by Rim and, surprisingly, Hyun. The Photurian looked much better, her blue skin glowing with healthy light. "You did it," Jin exclaimed. "Guards found all the weapons, Dak's followers being questioned." Rim's 4 eyes blinked in sequence, his species' version of approval. "Well fought, human. You have honor." Hyun stepped forward shyly. "Thank you," she said in her musical voice. For the medicine, for stopping Dak. She touched his hand briefly. You risked much for others. Tay felt warmth spread through him, not from pride, but from connection. In this cold place so far from home, he had found something like friendship. The captain wants to see you, Jin said, his excitement fading a little. What will you tell her? Tay had been thinking about this. The truth. Dak's operation was hurting. Everyone here, even the guards who helped him. Some guards will be angry, Rim warned. You cost them profit. Some will be relieved, Tay countered. Not everyone liked how Dak ran things. A guard appeared at the door. Human, Captain Sook is waiting. Tay stood up, wincing slightly as his bruised muscles protested. I'll be back, he told his friends. If I can, he added with a small smile. Captain Sook's office looked different than before. Screens showed various parts of the prison where guards were searching cells and questioning prisoners. On one screen, Tay saw Dak's followers being led. Away in restraints. Sit, Sook said, just as she had during their first meeting. But her tone was different now. Less cold, more curious. Tay sat across from her, hands folded in his lap. You've caused quite a problem for me, Sook said. 3 guards under arrest for smuggling. 22 prisoners in isolation for weapons possession, and Dak. She paused. Dak may face transfer to a maximum security facility. I didn't start this, Tay pointed out. I just finished it. Sook's metallic face showed a hint of amusement. Yes, you did. She leaned forward. The question is, what should I do with you? Do with me? You've shown yourself to be resourceful, potentially dangerous. She studied him. I could put you in isolation, for safety. Whose safety? Tay asked. I'm not a threat to anyone who doesn't threaten me first. Sook nodded slowly. That seems to be the truth. She touched a screen on her desk. A document appeared. Your case file. I've been reviewing it. Tay stayed quiet, waiting. The border you supposedly crossed? It doesn't exist. Sook looked up at him. The mining permit you had was valid. There was no violation. Tay felt a surge of hope, quickly controlled. I knew that. Yes, I imagine you did. Sook's fingers danced across the screen. The arresting officer has a history of creative interpretations of the law, especially with human ships. So I was arrested for being human? Essentially. Sook's voice was matter-of-fact. Many species find humans unsettling. Your physical capabilities, your aggression, your rapid expansion into space. Tay thought about this. It wasn't the first time he had faced prejudice, even in the supposedly enlightened Galactic Confederation. What happens now? He asked. That depends. Sook pushed another screen toward him. It showed the prison cafeteria, where many prisoners were watching a replay of Tay's fight with Dak. You've become something of a celebrity. Tay frowned. I didn't want that. Perhaps not. But you have influence now. Sook's silver eyes fixed on him. Influence can be useful or dangerous. Tay understood what she was asking. You want me to help keep order? I want you to continue doing what you did with Dak, stopping abuse, protecting the weak, but officially with my authority behind you. Tay was surprised. You're offering me a job? I'm offering you a role, as a trustee. Sook sat back. The alternative is that I release you. Release me? Now Tay was really surprised. Just like that? Your arrest was invalid. You've been held illegally. Sook's face was unreadable. The proper thing would be to release you with an apology and compensation. But Tay sensed there was more. But then we lose your unique abilities and the respect you've earned. She gestured to the screen again, where prisoners were still watching the fight replay. Sometimes an unjust situation can lead to a just outcome. Tay considered his options. Freedom was what he had wanted since his arrest. a chance to return to his life, his work. But looking at the screens showing the prison, he thought of Jin, Hyun, and others like them. Without Doc, things would be better, but for how long? Someone else would rise to take his place. How long would I need to stay? He asked finally. 6 months, Suk replied. With good behavior, we could then arrange a supervised work release. You could return to mining but report back regularly. It wasn't perfect freedom, but it was a path to it, and a chance to make a difference. I accept, Tae said. But I have conditions. Suk raised an eyebrow. Such as? Better medical care for all prisoners. No more stealing medicine. Fair food distribution. Tae leaned forward. And I want to review all cases like mine. Other prisoners who might be here unfairly. For a long moment, Suk was silent. Then she smiled. A real smile this time, not just a hint of one. You are not what I expected, human, she said. When they brought you in, I thought you would be trouble. I was right, but not in the way I imagined. She extended her hand, a human gesture she must have learned. We have a deal. Word spread quickly through Helios Station. The human who defeated Dak was now a trustee, with special authority from Captain Suk herself. Most prisoners were cautiously optimistic. A few of Dak's former followers were hostile, but they kept their distance. Tae's first official act was to reorganize the medical distribution system. No more special treatment, no more stolen medicine. His second was to set up a fair work rotation, so no prisoner got all the worst jobs. 1 week after the fight, Tae sat in the cafeteria with Jin, Rim, and Hyun. Other prisoners nodded respectfully as they passed. I still can't believe it, Jin said, his large eyes wide with wonder. You changed everything. Not everything, Tae corrected, and not just me. We all did it together. Rim nodded. True, but it was your courage that started it. Hyun, her light, now strong and steady, smiled. The other prisoners talk about you. They say humans are different than they thought. Not just dangerous, but fair. Tae felt a strange pride at her words. He had never meant to become a representative of humanity, but in this small corner of the galaxy, he had changed how some aliens saw his species. The door to the cafeteria opened, and a surprising figure entered. Dak. The big Kuril looked different. His scales were a neutral green, not the angry red or black they usually showed. He wore a restraint collar that would prevent him from attacking anyone. The room went silent as Dak walked straight to Tae's table. For a tense moment, no one moved or spoke. Then slowly, Dak lowered his head in a gesture of respect. Human, he said, his voice rough but controlled. You won fairly. By the laws of my people, I acknowledge your strength. Tae stood up. This was unexpected but not unwelcome. Your people value honor in combat, he said. I respect that tradition. Dak raised his head. I thought all humans were savages, animals from a death world. His yellow eyes showed something new, understanding. I was wrong. We all have things to learn about each other, Tae replied. Dak nodded once, then turned and walked away to sit alone at a far table. The tension in the room slowly faded as normal conversations resumed. Jin looked amazed. Did Dak just apologize? In his way, Tae said. It's a start. Later that day, as Tae made his rounds checking on various sections of the prison, he passed by the observation deck. Through the large windows he could see Earth's sun, a tiny, distant star from this far away. Captain Suk stood there, looking out at the stars. Your people are still new to the Galactic community, she said as Tae joined her. Many species fear what they don't understand. Like humans, Tae agreed. Like Deathworlders, Suk corrected. But perhaps that term needs to be reconsidered. She handed him a data pad. On it was an official communication from Confederation headquarters. What's this? Tae asked. New directive, Suk explained. All cases involving humans are to be reviewed for potential bias, and she paused. Earth representatives have been invited to join the Confederation Justice Committee. Tay felt a surge of pride. It was a small step, but an important one. Sometimes, Suk said thoughtfully, it takes one individual to change perceptions, one person who proves the stereotypes wrong. Tay looked out at the distant sun that warmed his homeworld. I'm just a mining engineer, he said, not a diplomat. Perhaps, Suk replied. But you've done what diplomats couldn't. You've earned respect. As they stood there looking at the stars, Tay thought about his journey, from wrongful arrest to prison trustee, from threatened Deathworlder to respected leader, and somewhere on Earth, unknowing, other humans were preparing to join the Galactic community. They would face challenges, misunderstandings, and prejudice, but they would also find allies, friends, and opportunities to build Britty.